Hello, everybody. I'm Angela Watercutter, Senior Editor for Culture here at Wired. Thank you so much for joining us for Wired 25. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Van Jones, the founder, president of Magic Labs, the CEO of Reform Alliance, and CNN host and contributor, Elijah Allen Blitz, virtual reality director, and of course, actress, filmmaker, producer, and Captain Marvel herself, Brie Larson. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's really great to have you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Great. So obviously we're talking about The Messy Truth, the VR experience, which actually is also nominated for an Emmy. I want to say congratulations to you guys for that. But first, Van, why don't you take us back a little bit? We got a little bit of a glimpse in the video we just saw of what The Messy Truth is. But, tell us a little bit about the history of it, kind of where this project came from and why you wanted to work on something like this.
Well, first of all, it's just a big honor to be here. I'm a Wired fanatic, so it's just good to be in this conversation. And, I am a part of an industry that some people say is tearing the country apart. Mainstream media, so-called corporate media. Some people say that the business model is making it more profitable to divide people and to bring people together. And I don't want to believe that's true, but I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to use technology for good. Is there a way for us to use virtual reality and anything else to get people together? We just heard that incredible filmmaker was talking about empathy. And she talked about how empathy is this sort of, the backbone for human civilization. And I think that she's right. And, I was so sad about, after the Trump victory and all of just the pain and suffering and division and misunderstanding going on across the country. And as somebody who grew up in red state America, got a lot of love for red state America, raised my family on Blue Coast. And I just wanted, is there any way we could get people together? And then I got a chance to spend some time with Elijah. And Elijah is just a genius for bringing people together, finding solutions, using technology in innovative ways. And he said there's something called an empathy machine. Virtual reality. It's just never been used, to really solve a social problem before. And I said, well, can we try? And he said, let's do it. And here we are with an Emmy nomination and mega stars like Brie Larson involved. And it's just an amazing experience.
Well, that tees it up perfectly. Elijah, tell me a little bit about, how you got involved in this and sort of what you wanted to do when, once you started working with Van on this project.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from the beginning, Van and I were actually working on something separate, but once Trump got elected, it was less than a week after the election, we got on the phone and just both agreed we need to do something. And we need to see if we can use the power of this technology to actually, instead of dividing us like all the stuff that we've seen happening over the last 4 years, to see if we can actually bring us together. So this has been beyond a labor of love. This is it's in a real way, it's a social experiment. And we're trying to see that if we can use this new medium in VR to actually, put you in the shoes of someone else, where you look down and you're fully embodied for these experiences in the, shoes of a different race or someone from a different gender, and to really see, like Van's saying, if this can be the ultimate empathy machine.
Yeah. And Brie, talk about your involvement. How did you come on board and what really made you want to work on something like this?
Elijah and I had a conversation about it. It was like the first conversation we ever had was about empathy. And when he was talking about this project, I was in the midst of working in Time's Up, and I was like, oh, we need to talk about tipped workers. It's a lot of what we're talking about with trying to put someone in someone else's shoes. I think one place that this really excels is dealing with power imbalance, because it's an experience that you have to, it's very hard to have if your body limits you and you've never been in that experience before. This gives you a never before experience. So we started talking with ROC and many women in the restaurant industry and collected a bunch of stories. It's important, I think, to say that this project is their true stories. So when you're going inside somebody else's experience, we're not fictionalizing this. We're just telling the truth and allowing you to sit in it and feel it for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and for all three of you, talk a little bit about that, because I think one of the great things about VR is that you can have an experience, a sort of first-person perspective experience on something that you maybe haven't been through, in your own life. But at the same time, it's so intimate to the point where it can be almost overwhelming. And so, how do you find that balance? And, how are you trying to reach that balance between creating empathy, but without sort of almost having a kind of traumatic experience or a kind of, like I said, overwhelming experience for viewers who are kind of doing some of these things for the first time?
We actually had to work really. Oh, go for it, Van.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that that was something we had to work really hard on. Like Brie was saying, identifying these stories and making sure everything's true, but then also B, making sure that it wasn't something that could potentially traumatize the viewer. So it was the right mix, finding the right mix of both of these different episodes that we've created so far have to give you an emotional connection where something happens that draws you in and connects you to what you're witnessing, but then also at the same time acknowledging the power of this medium where we're not going to give you an experience that could potentially traumatize you.
Yeah, and I think, just saying, the ethics, that Elijah brought to this, I think is really, really extraordinary. I mean, it'd be very easy to find a story that would be so shocking and, people would jump out of their seat and go home and cry or whatever, but that's not the point. What we're trying to do is find true stories. If you take a story like being a kid in a car with your parents, everybody's been there before. But when the lights start flashing behind you and you get pulled over and you're a black kid, you never forget that. Well, I walk around with that. Every black person walks around with that. If you're a white person, you've probably never had that experience. Or if you did, it worked out fine. It was officer friendly. Maybe she's giving you directions or something, or just giving you a warning, letting you go home. So we had to find an experience that would put you in that tension, put you in that moment of holy crap, like this is really going badly, but then not have it so bad that you're traumatized. And so it's people said, well, how can you find these stories? Listen, the stories are ubiquitous. There's so many stories of gender discrimination, sexual harassment, racial harassment. But how do you find one that's touching, that's moving, that doesn't traumatize people? That had to do with the ethics of the director, which is Elijah.
We actually had a viewer question. Thanks, Andrea. Wanted to know, I think from Brie specifically, how is it different working in VR versus working, in traditional film? What were the things that you kind of had to learn on the fly or learn on the spot? And, how did you kind of incorporate that into what you do?
Sure. So the thing with this particular piece is that it's one continuous scene. About 3 minutes long, right? Each one's about 3 minutes long. So it's like a play. There's no coverage. So if I mess up a line, you start from the beginning. If you want to try something in a different direction, it's a whole new take. And so the day is just, the beauty of it is you just need one take. And the other side of it is that it's just, you got to encapsulate it all in one go through. So it's more like, for this particular one, it's more like a play or doing a very short play than it is a traditional filming day. And the other piece is, as a producer on this, is you're thinking about the space. And I learned a lot from Elijah about that, about, where the camera's placed, where it is in a corner, for example, so that, because you want to look around and see, but then having a general focal point. So we work together from both of our backgrounds in order to kind of streamline this so that we're maximizing the impact within the experience.
Yeah. I think Van and maybe Elijah as well, we saw in the video that it looks like you took this to CPAC and actually, gave it to some people to try out. Talk a little bit about that experience, why you wanted to do it, and also, kind of what you walked away from that experience with.
Well, look, this is a part of my life. I am, strong Democrat, work for President Obama. I'm at CNN. I'm not at Fox. And yet I have found that when you really care about the people who are at the bottom, the people who are desperately poor or who are addicted or who are in prison or who have mental health issues, those folks, whether you're talking about Appalachia, the Hood, the Native American reservation, the border, they tend to have the same basic problems, about 80% overlap. Might have a little bit more racism here, a little bit more classism over there, but you've got the same basic problems. And neither political party, from my point of view, does enough to help the addicted, the afflicted, and the convicted. And so I've never been able to get a bill passed or get something done to help anybody where I didn't wind up working with Republicans and Democrats. So I'm bipartisan because I'm so passionate about my progressive values. And what we wanted to do was to take this experience to CPAC, take it to the biggest gathering of conservatives, in this hemisphere, and just open our hearts up and say, here's what we've got to share with you. And we saw people taking off their MAGA hats, taking off their Make America Great hats, taking off their NRA hats, and putting on those visors. And as you saw in that video, 3.5 minutes later, saying, I didn't understand before. I didn't understand what it meant to be an African-American kid in a car getting pulled over by police officers with police dogs, etc. I just had never thought about it. And all we want is more understanding. We didn't go there to get them to change who they're going to vote for. I mean, it's democracy. You can vote for who you want to. That's the whole point. Dictatorship, you can only vote for one person. Democracy, you vote for who you want to. But we want people to vote with more understanding, and after the election to be able to have more understanding. And that's what I think we achieved a little bit at CPAC.
Yeah. And
there was.
Okay.
Oh, what were we going to say? Angela,
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
just to answer just to elaborate on Van's point about CPAC, one of the guiding principles from the beginning of this project is something Van always says, that there's no throwaway people. And that goes across the entire board. And so when, showing up there, for me, that was my first time at CPAC for sure. And I definitely did not know what to expect. But what I was immediately hit by is that we all have so much more in common than not. And there was, like Van saying, there was, police officers that came and watched this experience, and they were just coming out and be like, I have a whole new perspective. And to be able to do that, to me, that's the goal of this project. It's not just to show people, that agree with our perspective already. It's not to preach to the choir. It's to go out there and try and connect with people. And, with Brie's episode, we plan to take that out as soon as, we can. Obviously, this is not the right time with the pandemic, but once we can go out there and share these different perspectives, showing people that might never get a chance to see this. That's really the whole mission behind this.
Yeah, I was gonna. There you go. Go ahead, Van. Yeah.
I just want to say, and also we plan on doing something about coal country, Appalachia, the opioid crisis, and take that to liberals. Because liberals and progressives also have our blind spots and our assumptions and our lack of empathy, as much as we like to fly that empathy flag. So we got a lot of stories we want to tell.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say about the interesting thing with access in VR is that not a lot of people have headsets, so you do end up having instances where you have to be able to take VR out into the world and share it with people and let them sort of try these things on. And I'm kind of curious how obviously with coronavirus that's sort of impacted your ability to do that. But is that something that you definitely want to sort of double down and commit to once it's possible to bring these things out into the world again?
Yeah,
100%. That's our goal.
We talked too about the ideas for the future with this is that we could create curriculums. They could be larger ones, smaller ones. They could be ones tailored for schools, ones that are put in museums. And we've even talked about putting this in a van and being able to drive cross country and just put it on whoever we see. Obviously, these are all dreams for the future, not anywhere near. But this is about distributing the technology that we have, using the tools that we have. And these headsets are going to become, we think, much more available to people. And I think it's important that this option is there. There's, of course, going to be used for many different ways, but I think having this as an option is incredibly important. Yeah.
Van, I'm curious, you mentioned in the video that you wanted to work with Marvel superheroes, and obviously we have a Marvel superhero with us. Why was that? What were you kind of looking to do, with bringing in folks from that world into this one?
Well, I'm a super geek. Like these are people are putting these books behind me are actually books. These are all graphic novels and stuff. Like I was a Marvel Comics geek when it was not cool. I was born in 1968, so I was reading this stuff. I remember when you had to be a true nerd to know who the X-Men were, to care about the Avengers, all that sort of stuff. So I grew up with that, and the ethics of, you hear me say ethics a lot, but ethics mean a lot to me. Stan Lee's vision of people with having a lot of power, having a lot of responsibility, sticking up for the underdog, not giving up, not becoming what you're fighting. Villains act a certain way. We're not going to act that way. We're going to we're going to be better. All that stuff went into me very, very deep as a kid. And when I was a little nerd getting bullied and wedgied and pushed around or whatever, and then all of a sudden I'm 6'1+ and and nobody's bullying me anymore, I wanted to use my law degree and whatever I had to help people. Then suddenly Marvel becomes like the global like mythology for like, the 21st century civilization. And like, so you have these actual heroes that have been burned into the minds of like 7 billion people. I said, geez, if these people actually decide they want to act heroically in the rest of the world, they can move the whole planet. And that's what we've seen. Winston Duke's performance, he was M'Baku in the Black Panther. His performance as a dad in this thing is unbelievable. The first one, Brie's, performance in this thing is unbelievable. We've got others, Josh Brolin, Zoe Saldana, others who want to come in and do stuff. Listen, if Marvel wants to, if Marvel heroes or DC heroes, though I'm a Marvel guy, but if DC heroes want to become heroic in the real world,
don't start a division with that, Van.
Exactly. I'm just saying. Like anybody, even DC and Marvel can get together for good.
Yes.
In VR. Well, Brie, talk a little bit about that. Where do you see sort of the overlap with working on a project like this, with your work in film and sort of being a hero in different ways and in different formats?
Sure. I'm just always looking for new ways to do the right thing. And this was one of them. So my interest in film was empathy. And for me, one of the things that I can tell with how far we're going with empathy is what films people are connecting with. And as we're seeing more diversity on film, it's exciting to me because I know what the experience is of watching a movie. You're becoming one with the person on the screen. It doesn't matter how many people you're watching the thing with. It's you alone, and you are on the edge of your seat, hopefully, with this person. You are this person. So this is actually taking it a step further and just saying, hey, you're just going to be dropped into this body, and you're going to experience it from a first person's perspective. So when I heard about this project, it was so exciting because it's the thing that I've cared about and wanted to achieve. And I also am very limited in the roles and stories that I can play because of my body. And so this is a way to participate and continue to elevate and create more dialogue, more inclusion, and allow people to have experiences, because that's what this is all about. This is what we need, is just more understanding. And I know that a lot of these words are sort of tired and overused, and we're saying things like this a lot, but it's so true. It's so true. I mean, we really have more that's alike than different. And so much of this hatred we have for one another, whatever you consider the other side, is based on a misunderstanding. And I think this is an incredible way that we can cut through that and say we're the same.
Yeah. Well, I was rewatching Avengers Endgame the other day, and I realized that Captain Marvel is actually kind of an intersectional feminist when you think about how she wants to save Earth, but also every other galaxy. So I think that is very true. Well, I'm curious, you talked
thanks.
a little bit about, yeah, welcome. Well, you were talking a bit about the things you have, kind of going forward. I'm wondering if anything in 2020 could, inspire anything in the future for something that you would want to do with a VR project.
Is that for me?
I wonder.
For anybody. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Van.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's funny you ask that. I'm passionate about the immigration situation. The recent reporting that there may be the enforced hysterectomies against women in refugee camps and immigration detention is just unbelievable to me. I know Zoe Saldana has mentioned that she wants to do something about immigration. I'm passionate about what's going on in Appalachia. I'm from Tennessee. It's not a foreign country to me. But I haven't thought about the particularities of 2020. But in some ways, we were prescient because the situation with George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter uprising maps right onto what we did with the first one. Certainly, Time's Up and all of that maps onto what we did with the second one. But there'll be many, many more. For me, the most important thing I can say is that it's okay for us to disagree with each other. That's not a problem. We can vote against each other. We can march against each other. But we need to understand each other. Listen. If you and I disagree, but I at least understand where you're coming from, we can still be neighbors. We can still be, in the same country together. If you are a complete mystery to me, if I have no idea where the hell you're coming from, and we don't agree, we got a problem. And right now, technology, these algorithms, once the algorithm knows, once your phone knows you're a liberal, it's only going to show you liberal content, I promise. Once they know you're conservative, it's only going to be conservative. And so you think you're programming your phone. Your phone is programming you. And we've got to start using technology in a different way, not because we should never vote against each other, but because we should never vote against each other and hate each other. And that's where we're headed right now. I'm very concerned about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we have time for one question, and it wouldn't be Wired if I didn't ask Brie. Do you know what's happening with Captain Marvel 2? Are you excited to get back into it?
Oh my God, Van is so excited about this question. I am so excited to talk about that movie at a time when Marvel's not going to kill me to talk about it. So
Right.
I'm going to pivot real quick and say, in response to your question before, there's infinite stories to tell. And we've talked about positive stories as well, moments of kindness, moments of compassion, moments of, when you're getting help from a stranger, disability episodes. I just think that there's just as many people as there are on the planet. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a moment that should be shared and experienced. And so we're excited to collect more and do more. And we hope that the more we talk about it, the more we get it out there. Hopefully there's people out there in the world that are like, that looks cool. We can, we'll help you, because that's what we need right now. We just need help to keep pushing the project forward.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really love this conversation, and thank you for coming to Wired 25. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye.
Yeah.